Hey everybody, hope you're doing well. Today's video is kind of special compared to a lot of the other videos I've done on this channel. As you guys know, I upload weekly, Sundays at 2 o'clock. You can always expect a new video from me, and I haven't missed a single day. Through being super sick, through traveling, through work, I have always made sure to get content out to you guys on that day. And the reason today is special and why I mentioned that is because technically tomorrow, but this weekend marks the 1-year anniversary of me starting this YouTube channel, of me uploading every Sunday. And I didn't really know what to do for this video, so I kind of just thought I was going to keep it low-key, and we'll be doing a sort of my personal ranking of the Life is Strange games. Since I know I express my opinion here and there on my videos, I try to stay fairly even keel with the games, but more and more I've been expressing my opinions about each of them. I figured 1-year anniversary, why not make it a little bit about me? But I know you're here for my ranking video. At the end, I'll do my whole mushy, thank you guys so much, yada yada yada. I'll get to the content first, and those of you who are interested in what I have to say at the end, then you can watch it. So without further ado, let's get into my personal rankings of the Life is Strange series. So for each game, I'll be saying where it ranks for me, and also my pros and cons as to why it falls in that spot. So first I have honorable mentions, Wavelengths as well as Captain Spirit. These are both demos slash DLC for a mainline game, so I really didn't feel like I could rank them among the other ones, simply because they don't have as much content as a full Life is Strange game. I feel like each of them have about as much content as an episode or two would have in a Life is Strange game, so it just didn't really feel fair to compare them. I'll still go over my likes and dislikes with them. I really love how self-contained they are. That's an aspect of them that I think is fun. You can sit down and play through it in about one sitting, get the full story of these characters, and see a very interesting and unique part of the Life is Strange world. I've always been a fan of the sort of lower key spin-offs of series. Solo: A Star Wars Story is one of my favorite Star Wars movies because at its core it's a heist movie. It's not about a galaxy-ending event that is so important and it's the most crazy thing ever. It's just a story about a kid who goes on a heist and he winds up with the girl that he used to love, and that's really the charm of these demo slash DLC entries into the series. I also love to see actors get a chance to be the lead. These are characters who play smaller roles in the main games, and I'm always happy to see very, very talented actors and actresses get a shot at a bigger part. So that's another aspect of it I really enjoy. My dislike with it, which really isn't even like a dislike, it's just how it is just how short they are. While yes, it's nice that they're self-contained, they're just very, very short pieces, so I really feel like I can't rank them with the other things. So there you go. So at the bottom of my list in my ranking is Life is Strange Double Exposure. Now I know you've seen my first impressions video where I praised the game a lot and gave it a very high rating, and while I still stand by most of what I said, as time has gone on it has sort of soured. I realized that my first playthrough of the game really wasn't enough for me to fully judge it. That's a lesson I learned with my Lost Records Bloom and Rage review. I made sure I played through it twice and extensively researched other endings and things like that in order to fully understand the game. So, like I said, as time has gone on, my opinion of this game has soured, which is why it's fairly low on this list. Now, I want to clarify that whether one game is lower or higher than the other, the quality of this series individually, I know I've made a video critical of the series as a whole, but the individual games themselves are all fairly high quality games, especially for their genre. So if I have something ranked lower, it's not necessarily horrible, it's just not as good in my opinion as the other one. So my likes of Double Exposure is obviously Hannah Telle is back. I love Hannah Telle as an actress, as a musician, as just a creator in general. I think she's very, very talented. I absolutely adore her music. I think I've said it a few times. I think she's absolutely fantastic. She is at the top of my list of, like, if I could meet a celebrity or an actor or just have coffee with them, pick their brain, I would love to talk to her. I have so much admiration for her. Another thing I liked about the game was its characterization of Max. I know a lot of people had some issues with that, but that's something that from my first impressions till now I still agree with. I think that she has grown in a realistic way from when we first saw her to now. I know I got a little personal with my first impressions where I talked about how the age I was at when that game came out and those first few games came out and I played them is similar to where Max was in life versus now when I'm in college, I'm in my 20s, and it's much different. And my view on life is different, and I've grown and changed since then, similar to Max. And that's something I really appreciate about Double Exposure, is that it's not afraid to change her in realistic ways. The fact that she's now more outgoing, but she still has that sort of nerdy charm that she's always had. I think the graphics are definitely a strong point of Double Exposure. I think visually it's a very pretty game. The character models are high quality, the textures, all that stuff. It's a very good looking game, especially because it's meant to be very cinematic. You're meant to almost watch it like a show. I also think that despite the fact that we're coming back to a school again for this kind of story, I think the university is a very interesting location, and I like the idea of Max being a teacher this time around. I think her rapport with Moses and Safi at the very beginning is very, very fun and feels really good, like, to watch. I think their rapport, like I said, is just, I just like it. But I think the university itself being set in the winter is also a nice touch. I just really like the setting. That's a much more subjective thing for me, is that I just like the setting. Now, with my dislikes of the story, it's just, first and foremost, the story is borderline nonsensical. There's a lot of threads that go nowhere. There's a lot of things that are purely sort of nostalgia bait. We had that kind of fraternity group that's set up to be another Vortex Club kind of thing, but that goes nowhere. And people who have done deeper dives than me on this particular game have pointed out a lot of the plot holes. Let me know if you want me to sort of deconstruct the game from a writing standpoint. I am a writer after all. Or my Last of Us Season 2 video, you would know that I love writing and I love writing structure. So if you want to see me break it down from that standpoint, I'd love to. Anything beyond a first playthrough, the story, it just unravels. The other thing is the side characters feel very, very flat. The two love interests, I think, are just kind of meh. They don't really stick out in my mind. I think probably the best side character from this whole thing is Moses. I thought he was a really nice character, and I liked his voice actor, the way he performed. This is also, none of this is an attack on the voice actors. They are just reading lines that were given to them. I think they all did a wonderful job with what they were given. But the characters themselves, the material that was there, they just felt kind of flat. The students that Max interacted with, the antagonist, Safi, was also kind of lackluster in my opinion. While I understand her motivations, it just doesn't feel grounded in my opinion. Another thing that's sort of lacking in this game is that the world is not very fleshed out. There's not much depth to the groups and the town surrounding the university. You look at Life is Strange 1, 2, or really any of the other ones, and there's clear that there's been a lot of thought put into the town history. There's a lot of reoccurring names that you can find around the place and sort of learn the history of it. I didn't really feel that with Double Exposure. And finally, I think something that a fan base that heavily disagrees with me and I can actually like shake hands and agree on is that the choice of whether to sacrifice Arcadia Bay or not isn't really, for lack of a better term, respected in this game. It's not very fleshed out. Both options are not very fleshed out, whether it's the off-screen breakup or if it is just the fact that we don't get to see anything of these other characters. Max doesn't keep in touch with anybody from the town, when I feel like the goal of the first game, the arc that she goes on, is to sort of appreciate those people. Kind of Chloe does as well, but Max, I think so as well, where in her hallucinations and stuff towards the end, it's how, Max, you only got close to them to take advantage of them, to get what you want. And when she sacrifices Chloe, it's kind of that thing of, I get a second chance now, I'm gonna treat people better and just do the right thing. Not that Max is a bad person, but I feel like that's kind of intended with that version of the story. It's just not fleshed out. The few Facebook posts that we get from these characters, it's just not, it just doesn't, I don't feel anything, you know? It feels like it doesn't matter what happened. It almost feels like Max is disconnected from the original in that sense. I think in terms of her characterization, it's good, but in terms of the writing and showing the effect that it's had on her, it kind of falls flat. Next on my list is Life is Strange True Colors. True Colors is, on its own, a very solid game, and if it wasn't a Life is Strange game, I would have it rated much, much higher in my personal list of things. In terms of things that I really like, I think Alex Chen is a fantastic protagonist. I think she's very well written, and she has by far one of the best performances we've seen from a main character in the Life is Strange series. I think her performance comes through amazingly with the motion capture. I also think graphically this is the best looking. I think it strikes a good balance between realism as well as the more artistic kind of drawing-esque design of Life is Strange. I think it perfectly balances between them and looks amazing. I think the background characters are all very, very interesting. I think Ducky is great. I think both of the love interests are great. And Steph obviously has an edge in terms of who you like more because we've seen her in previous games. But Ryan is also fairly well written, and I like the arc that they go down. I think the whole point of the game is that Alex, the theme is that she's trying to find a home, and her leaving with Steph, or getting with Steph and then Steph leaving and then breaking up, I don't know, narratively it doesn't feel as satisfying as her getting with Ryan, because in my opinion, the point is that she finds a home, she finds a community that she cares about, and that equally cares about her. She finally finds a family after bouncing around to all these different foster homes and things like that. And no, it's not just because Ryan is also a blonde-haired, blue-eyed white guy like me. That's not the only reason. I think he's a better love interest for Alex. I already said my legitimate reasons. I just feel like I have to address that a little bit. I also think the environment itself, the town, is awesome. I think it has just a wonderful feeling to it. I think the music is also very, very good. And the history of the town, it feels like a real place that I could go to in real life. And I really, really like that about that game. It's just the environment, the characters. It's almost reminiscent of Stardew Valley to an extent, where you have this town, you know people, where they're going to be, the different shops, you can kind of walk around a bit. I really, really like that aspect of it. I also think that the sort of, every Life is Strange game has that hallucination section where it's, towards the end of the game and it shows all these weird visions and stuff like that. I think the one in this game is the best. When you fall down the mine shaft and you relive the memories with Gabe narrating, and you have the stuff in the foster home, and you have the stuff in the doctor's office. Genuinely, I think that's one of the most impactful and powerful of these sort of hallucination sequences throughout the entire series. And I cannot praise that sequence enough. Now, my dislikes of this game, the thing that brings it down is that the story being a sort of murder mystery, it's kind of been done to death, but at least it makes sense. It's a murder mystery kind of deal that makes sense within the story, and there's a clear through line, and all the clues all add up, unlike the one in Double Exposure. There's also some pacing issues with this game, particularly the sort of D&D episode, the role-playing episode with the kid. It just slows the game to a halt, and the fact that it's so long. And then the next episode, when you have the party where Steph plays in the band and Alex sings, and then you go somewhere else, that episode is only 40 minutes compared to the other ones, which are multiple hours long. It's just the pacing is a little unbalanced, in my opinion. But otherwise, I think it's just a solid, if not slightly unremarkable one. Next on my list is Life is Strange 2. Life is Strange 2 is a bit of a controversial one. Life is Strange 2 is very unique within the series because it has a male protagonist, and unless I'm mistaken, it's the only one that has a male protagonist. Unless you count Don't Nod's later games that are disconnected from the series, such as Tell Me Why, which features a male main character. But it explores themes of brotherhood and family, and it's just very different than any of the other games. But that's what I love about it. In the sort of love column, I think those themes of brotherhood are explored so well. And also the themes of being a queer guy are also explored very well with this character. I think the Diaz brothers are very well written, and I just love them to death. I think they're fantastic. I think the actors all both do an amazing job as well. And so I know that a lot of people rank this one fairly low. I think part of it comes down to it just being such a big departure from the main series, which, you know, I already said my piece in my previous video about how I wish people were a little more open to Life is Strange being very different with each entry, but that's just me. Another thing I really like is the very unique characters you meet along the way, that we sort of get glimpses of their life. We're sort of ships passing in the night, I guess you could say, where these other people are on their own journeys. And I really love that because they are able to get away with having characters that don't really say much, like they don't have much of a backstory, but it makes you instead wonder, oh, I wonder where they came from. You know, the little snippets you get just become all the more interesting. It's a very beautiful game, and I think getting all these very, very different locations throughout the entire season it's fantastic. All the places are so unique, whether it's winter, whether it's the desert, whether it's, you know, early in Seattle. Like, I love it. I think it's so cool to see all these different places throughout the United States on this journey. Another thing is that the consequences feel really, really earned. I've noticed that with some of Don't Nod's more recent games, such as Lost Records, that the consequences, that there's a lot of endings, but that it doesn't feel very sound and it doesn't feel very earned. In this game, there are different endings with different variations, but they're done very well and it feels very earned. I feel responsible for the ending that I end up getting, and I think that's great. I think that's how it should be. Now, my only negatives with the game is just that it has pacing issues. Episodes are much longer, or maybe they just feel longer, but I feel like episodes are much, much longer than they used to be. Like in previous and other games, it's just very long. And also, with the story being so sprawling, certain parts can feel thin at times. I think, if you know what I mean, it's just some of them feel like, oh, this is such a fun idea, but that's all it is. It's just like an idea. Next, we have Life is Strange 1. I know that's a very controversial opinion to rank this as my second favorite, but I'll explain a little more later. But the things I love about this game, I mean, what isn't there to love? The vibe, the feeling of Arcadia Bay is fantastic. The Twin Peaks sort of inspiration rings through so well, and it works. The supernatural elements, the mystery, the darker tones, the queerness to it. I think it's just, it masterfully puts everything together. I can't describe. It's just so well done. It's such a complete package. If they had just released Life is Strange and never continued it, I mean, it would still be a fantastic game. I think the characters are iconic. It has this sort of quirkiness to it that it just works. I can't praise it enough. I think it's fantastic. My only cons with it really are just that some of the controls haven't aged that well. There's some glitches that to this day still haven't been panned out when I've replayed it. But that's really about it. I really, really think this game is well done. It's fantastic. And finally, my personal favorite Life is Strange game, Life is Strange Before the Storm. I know it's controversial because I kind of ripped into it in my previous video about the franchise, but in this one, like I said, we're looking at them individually. It's a game that I think masters the teen angst feeling, and that it keeps the same sort of vibe of Arcadia Bay and the kind of supernatural-ish elements, but it amps up that sort of, if you've ever seen the movie 10-Inch Hero, which is such a hyper-specific reference, but it's a kind of very angsty early 2000s movie, it feels like that in some sense. And I really, really enjoy that kind of teen angst, especially when it's done with that layer of irony that Life is Strange normally has. I think Chloe as a main character is great, and it might be blasphemy to say, but I really like the new voice actress they had for her. I understand it was during a strike and things like that, but I think the voice actress they chose for it sounds different enough and sounds like how I would imagine this early teen years Chloe would sound. The other thing is I love being sort of an observer in Rachel's story. Chloe is a side character in the first game, as we know, so having her also be almost a side character, but still influential within Rachel's story, because Rachel has always been a mystery. And I'm glad we don't play as Rachel, because keeping her somewhat mysterious and knowing that there's more there that we don't know, that even Chloe, her closest, her girlfriend, doesn't even know. I think it balances it perfectly. It explains enough about Rachel without ruining some of the mystique later on. The other thing I really love about this one is, for me personally, it's a bit nostalgic. At the time that this one came out, I had moved. I was in a new location, meeting new people, and I was kind of in not a great headspace mentally because of some other things that were going on as well. And so this game, having that kind of teen angst to it, really drew me in. And I found myself relating to some of the anger and resentment that Chloe had. And this was the first Life is Strange game that I went out and I bought it day one and played it as each thing came out. And it was the game that really kind of cemented the series as a favorite of mine. I liked the first game, but I fell in love with this one. And so for me personally, despite its issues, despite the flaws of the game, it's my favorite. For nostalgia is certainly part of it. And yeah, it might not be the best way to rank the series, but hey, this is my list on my channel's birthday, so... And that is my ranking of the Life is Strange franchise. I hope you enjoyed it, and now I'm going to get into my thank you, as I said, for 1 year of this channel. As of recording, according to the YouTube Studio app, my total subscriber count is 5,462. It's just... I am so thankful that me sitting down in front of a camera and talking about games and shows that I love, that people enjoy that people put me on their screens and comment and like. This is something I have been wanting to do for so long. I love film, I love media, I love games, I love acting, I love writing, and in my mind, YouTube is kind of the perfect mixture of everything. I get to perform, I get to talk in front of a camera, I get to write, I get to do research, I get to play games that I love as a job, kind of. And the fact that you guys take time out of your day to watch me, it really means a lot that I get to do this. And that a year ago today, on a whim, I came home from a film set, that I was working on, and said, I'll record a YouTube video, and I'll see what happens. And I uploaded it, and people loved it. And I just kept going. And I haven't missed a day. Through being sick, through moving my stuff between home and college, through work, I've been able to do it every week. And I am glad that you guys make that possible. Because I wouldn't be doing this without all the support, the positive comments, the likes, the view, everything that I get from you guys. I just, all I can say is thank you. And I hope that next year around this time I get to sit down in front of the camera again and thank you all over again for it. So thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate every single one of you. And I hope you have a good morning or evening or, whatever. That's another thing. I'm just... I like that that's become a thing for me. So I go, hey everybody, and then I go, have a good morning or evening or, whatever. Because, I don't know when you're watching the video.